Himari is an ugly, disgusting female whose chest is straighter than a ping pong table. She receives a letter one day informing her that her parents, who she has no memory of, left her a house in their will. She moves into the house and meets Aoi, who has already taken her position as the master of the house, and together they find out what they can about her parents while navigating their feelings for each other. It's a beautiful and sunny afternoon, and Himari is seen advancing to her newly inherited mansion. She arrives and knocks on the door to her house, enters, and is approached by a stark naked individual who gets mugged by two other individuals that cover him up. They accuse her of being a burglar and demand she introduces herself. These three handsome folks turned out to be Aoi, Yukari, and Ize, who declared that they decided to live in this house. They proceed to warn Himari about the haunted state of the house. She's confused, and they deepen her confusion the more when they tell her the house does not conform to the rules of normal space and time. It's obvious that flat-chested girls are stubborn because Himari decides that this isn't enough to scare her off her inheritance and the only thing that connects her to her family. Later at night, Himari, while thinking of what she heard during the day and how the house seems to have no electricity, sees something disturbing in the form of a man with elongated things coming out of him. And I'm not talking about the elongated thing that comes out of all of us male folks. I tell you that Himari got nightmares and barely slept through the night. Early the next morning, she decides to win the heart of the trio by cooking and cleaning before they wake up. However, she's beaten to the punch when she comes into the kitchen to meet a sumptuous meal made by Yukari. Himari quickly understood what the guys were talking about pertaining to the weirdness of this house when she got to cleaning and some weird faces appeared on the ceiling and walls. However, she yelled and sent them packing out of the house with her scream. Even evil spirits are supposed to pay rent. Afterwards, there's a knocked-out Issei sprawled on the ground with a bunch of talking things called yokai. That's when she learns that aside from Aoi, the other two aren't human, and there are other strange beings called Ayakashi. However, she's told to leave the house, and this time she runs away, where she's waylaid by a demon called Kumanyudo that traced her by smell and family blood. Aoi finds her in danger and transforms into the creature she saw the other night. So it turns out Aoi is the creature she saw the other night. He reveals that the other two are his shikigami and follow his orders, Yukari Mizuchi and Issei Shoujo, and Aoi's true identity is Nue with the power of Omamori. He orders the shikigami to capture the Kumanyudo, and we witness an Avatar sequel as Yukari uses waterbending and Issei uses firebending to hold down the Ayakashi. Nue unleashes a slice with his fan, and the demon vanishes into oblivion without any trace. Himari, witnessing the power display, speculates that Aoi is an Ayakashi, but she's corrected that he's the Lord Omamori and the master of the Momochi house, which was built at the barrier between the human and spiritual realms. And as Nue, he's the protector of the house, and he's the true owner of the Momochi family. Himari is taken back to the mansion for treatment after collapsing and overhears the trio talking about her. When she wakes on the morrow, she stubbornly makes a decision not to leave but to stay and help out with whatever weirdness is going on at the mansion. Apparently saving Himari's life gave our boy Aoi the initiative of moving into her bed. She woke up with him right next to her and did right by Mike Tyson with that beautiful right hook to his jaw. He took it like a Chad, but decided to earn another Superman punch by saying something creepy. Later on, Himari is astounded by how the rooms get self-cleaned, and Yukari explains that the house was conforming to their wishes to eject her beforehand. She demands rent from them as the original owner of the house, and naturally they are broke. This makes her wonder how they even got by in the first place, and Aoi explains that light is given by the fire yokai, and water just comes up on its own, and food just appears in an ominous fashion. So in simple terms, the Ayakashis were freeloaders. Not long, Himari discovers that because she owns the house, she can expel any foreign creature that she doesn't want inside the house. Later at night, Himari stumbles upon a ritual the three are performing and sees Aoi in some pain. She confronts him and demands the truth from him about the house and everything. He then tells her how he came to become Nue, which borders on him stumbling on the house as a young child, breaking the seal, and since the house was masterless at the time, he was selected and granted the powers necessary to protect the Momochi house. Apparently, Himari would have been the Omamori if she got to the house first. After waking up in the morning, Himari, pondering the information divulged to her, got to thinking, and suddenly some flower petals flowed into her room from some other place. Then a voice beckoned to her, telling her to hasten to the source of the said voice, and it turned out to be a blossom cherry tree. This entire thing turned out to be one big trick, as the blossom cherry tree was an ayakashi that was after the soul of a momochi. Our Superman Nue swooped to the rescue and did the summoning of his shikigami that restrained the ayakashi, and Nue destroyed it. Later on, we see Himari try to playfully take Aoi out of the house for a fun time, although he tells her he doesn't want to go, and she finally understands why when a barrier sends him back, and he explains that ever since he was selected, he couldn't step out of the compound anymore and cross over to the human realm. Himari realizes how oblivious she had been when he was telling her to leave. She then has a very stupid thought to replace him as the Omamori, but Yukari stops her, explaining that Aoi wouldn't be happy with the decision, and they're more comfortable with him being the Omamori. They try to dissuade her from staying any longer in the house, but this girl whose chest is flatter than an egg, and I mean the fried one, has other plans than leaving the house. After going into town, Himari meets a stranger that advises her randomly on what she's thinking of, and seems to change her perspective on the current issue. We later see a saddened Aoi when the others tell him Himari was gone, and a split second later she's seen bumping into him with a load of stuff from the outside world. She decides she's not leaving him and would stay with him. Aoi gets so touched and pulls her in for a hug while the other friendly Ayakashi cheer them on. It's the start of a new school session for Himari, and she's a transfer student. Apparently her orphanage home was in Tokyo before she moved out here. She met that same stranger that she spoke to when she left the house to town the other day. He seems to be a teacher in the school. After introducing herself to the class, the next thing we see is the scene where she is leading everyone to visit her mansion. After getting there, Himari secretly fills the guys in that she can't introduce them due to the embarrassment of living with guys that aren't her relatives. After chatting with her friends for a while, Himari decides to treat them to tea, and the boys must all be high on some Ayakashi cannabis, because suddenly they introduce themselves as the big sisters of the house with cute fitting clothes too. I mean, they're all men, and they still look more endowed than Himari, who is left astounded by the theatrics until they ask to be in private and explain that there's a problem. Aoi tells her that one of the classmates that came around is a corpse and disguising as a normal human. However, by being invited into the house by the owner of the house, it was soaking up the spiritual power with a mega straw and is speedily becoming an Ayakashi. Now it was time to play a game called Fish Out the Dead, and it was dead-ass serious, as if she guessed wrong, the dead would go berserk and could start harming the humans. Treading carefully, she headed back to the living room and started trying to make out who was ghosting the world of the living. Things get eerie as a man is shown on the rooftop just chilling and radiating malice. He looks like a mirror version of Nue, and seems to know him by name too. One of the visitors, Izuka, gets attacked spiritually by some unknown spirit. The rest are taken to where she is to try to decipher who the imposter could be. On the way, Himari notices another presence in the house and sees one of the visitors having no reflection in the mirror. Aoi comes out saying she needs to expel the imposter immediately, but Himari declines, realizing there's a more dangerous force in the house. The man on the rooftop earlier comes out in the form of Izuka and brings forth black flames. Aoi identifies him as Kasha. He tries to attack Himari after being warned not to. Kasha grabs hold of the corpse, whose name is Tori, and tried to exploit her longing for friends to make her evil, but Himari counters his spell and frees Tori. A pouting Kasha is seen leaving the house, promising better entertainment next time. Himari asks of Kasha, and Aoi explains he's not like the other Ayakashi. He's very powerful and formidable. The visitors that got stunned by Kasha wake and leave with the promise of seeing Himari the next day. Kasha had come and gone, but the fear of Kasha remained in the Momochi house. There's trouble in the Momochi house as Aoi, Issei, and Yukari deal with the fallout of letting Kasha into the Momochi house. They move swiftly to reseal all the broken seals on the gateway. Himari returns home and feels uneasy due to a lingering presence. The other little yokai feel it too. Himari gets to where the yokais are, and after hearing the cause of the uneasy feeling she had been having was Kasha, she pretty much downplays the guy, thinking he's not much of a threat or problem. The little yokai then proceeded to lecture her on just how important the occupants of that household were. Hearing this, she quickly ran to hear from Aoi and the rest about this Kasha person. They refused to tell her anything about him, for reasons they also wouldn't say. All Issei did was brag about how his red flames were hotter than the black flames of Kasha. Seeing that her pleading wasn't getting anywhere, she asked Issei to at least incinerate the markings left behind by Kasha. They were confused because they couldn't see the markings, but by the time they realized what was going on, it was too late. The markings started to burn up, and they sprung up ropes that immediately trapped Aoi as he transformed into Nue. Yukari tried cutting the ropes with his powers, but he quickly realized that Kasha's flames absorbed spiritual power. Ice didn't care about any of that, and he still tried to burn away at the ropes till Nue was free. It seemed like it was working too until he started to burn himself out. As he was about to be consumed by his flames, he remembered the vow he made to his long-dead friend who risked his life for him, that no matter what it took, he would never let his friends get hurt or die ever again. So he kept fighting his flames and holding on to dear life. Now he was in need of saving. Talk about a letdown. Himari tried calling out to Issei, but Yukari told her it was pointless, and the only way to save Issei was by freeing Nue. Yukari mentioned that if he could have even a second where the flames would reside, he could break the ropes. Himari immediately thought of a plan to do just that. She would cloak herself with Yukari's powers and approach Nue. And right on time too, because as Himari was approaching Nue, he was slipping further away due to the persuasive words from Kasha in the flames. Himari made it just in time to release Nue from the ropes, and as soon as he was free, Nue immediately commanded Issei to control his flames and blow away the giant bull in the house, destroying the roof along with it. When the dust settled, Aoi spoke to Yukari about how much Himari had given him a brighter perspective on things since they met. Yukari was still worried about what had just happened, but Aoi told him to be at ease and not fuss over it. He then just casually walked up to Himari and likewise just casually kissed her cheek. While Himari and Aoi were making googly eyes at each other, Issei and Yukari in the background steeled their resolve to continue being by Aoi's side forever. Himari heads to school like any other day when she suddenly sees a guy with a dark aura around him. She tried getting closer to see what was going on, but the guy promptly told her to stay away, otherwise she'd be cursed. When Himari gets to school, she does some digging to find out who the guy is. Turns out his name is Hidaka Hayato, and his family used to be friends with the former heads of the Momochi house. That means Hidaka's parents knew about her parents. Hidaka's family was known for their employment of Ayakashi from generation to generation, and as a result, they always relied on the advisors from the Momochi house to keep things moving well. After school, Himari went to Hidaka's house to try and find out anything he might know about her parents. Unfortunately for her, he knew nothing, and he just told her to leave again like last time. This time when she was leaving, an Ayakashi appeared and also told her to stay away from Hidaka. Night came, and as everyone was at the Momochi house eating dinner, Aoi noticed that Himari wasn't eating, so he asked why. She told him about all that happened during the day with Hidaka and the Ayakashi. To her surprise, Aoi knew him. Turns out they were childhood friends, and Aoi was the friend that Hidaka was trying to remember so badly. The next morning, Himari went to Hidaka's house again so that they could walk to school together. But Hidaka was still not having it and told her to leave. Himari reveals to him that she could see the kid in the fox mask yesterday. Before Hidaka could blurt it out again for the 100th time, Himari tells him that she can't ignore it now that she knows. Hidaka tells her about a deal he made with a certain Ayakashi years ago, and he believes that deal was what made his best friend leave him and curse him in the process. Himari gave him new hope and told him that she would help him lift the curse. Later that day, Himari updated Aoi on what had happened. After hearing this, Aoi devised a plan to sever Hidaka's connection with the fox and clear up Hidaka's misunderstanding about his friend. Himari went to the shrine with Hidaka and cleaned it up. She then ripped off the seal and let the foxes out. The foxes were furious and wanted to attack Hidaka for neglecting them, but they remained calm and heard Himari explain the situation. After realizing it wasn't Hidaka's fault, the foxes calmed down and accepted Himari's offer for them to join the Momochi house. But the older brother of the foxes wouldn't calm down for nothing. He just started attacking everyone. Himari and Hidaka made a run for it to the Momochi house. The fox spirit chased them into the sacred jurisdiction of Nue, and Nue wasted no time in humbling the fox spirit for trespassing. Hidaka, now able to see the fox spirit, ran to him and apologized. The fox spirit forgave him and gave him the remnant memories of his friend. When he realized his friend was gone for good, Hidaka wanted to die as well and be with him, but Nue knocked him out. The next morning when Himari went to walk with Hidaka to school, she brought up the curse and Aoi, and Hidaka didn't know who Aoi was. Himari felt sad as she wondered if Aoi was really okay not being remembered by his only best friend. It's a bright, chill morning and Himari walks in and greets everyone. On getting inside, she is stunned with the way the others were asking Nui, the master of the house, to use his powers. Himari goes further to ask if there was a problem. Aoi explains that the water has been tainted and frankly it would be understandable if the pollution was caused by the humans. Apparently, springs in the spiritual realm are holy and sourced by a certain powerful being called Ryujin. He protects the water so that they stay clean for eternity. So it's quite impossible for the water to go bad except something happened to Ryujin. Yukari, who was his kin, could also not fathom what the issue could be because Yukari could not see him or even hear his voice. Yukari explains that in order to speak to Ryujin, you have to be his kin or a sacrifice. In Yukari's case, he fulfills both. He tells them that it is Ryujin that protects the 7 springs and keeps them pure. Yukari takes them to the tainted spring. Within that moment, the bright and clean spring becomes so dark and tainted. At that same moment, Yukari falls down to the ground and becomes sick, which makes his spiritual power start dimming. Himari becomes so worried that she volunteers without thinking twice to become the sacrificial lamb. Like, is she trying to give her life up like she's Jesus? Thank goodness for the others who say no to that and provide another means with which they can contact Ryujin. AoE, trying to practice possible moves, narrates to Himari how he was treated when he was younger by Yukari and thereby convincing her not to risk her life because he cared so much. Despite all said and done, Himari more becomes the sacrificial lamb. Nue, the master of the house, begins the ceremony. In the process, he finds out that the problem is actually from the protector himself. Himari begs to speak with Ryujin, the protector of the springs. The protector accepts her plea and takes her. Nue, being the housemaster, decides to rescue her. Instead, Yukari shows from leaving his sick bed and pleads with Nu to take off his contract so that he can rescue her, promising that he would return alive. Yukari is relieved of his contract and transformed to his true form. While in the water, Himari sees flashbacks of Yukari when he was still human. Yukari explains his human life. He was supposed to kill the Emperor, but along the line he couldn't. The true killers of the Emperor came for his life too, but he was somehow able to conquer them all. When he did, he was sentenced as a sacrifice to Ryujin, but Ryujin gave him a new life as his kin. After many years, Ryujin gave himself to the protection of the waters and allows Yukari to go and find peace. Ryujin, however, becomes so consumed by loneliness that he didn't notice that he was cursed by a lawless being through a seal. Now that he can be seen and heard, his heart had already been set right with the fellow. The spring is cleared by Ryujin and implores Yukari to always set his heart with everyone. Everyone goes home happy. It's a school day and Himari sets out for school. Something seems off, but then she refuses to own up. With her face all red like she has a chronic fever, she runs off to school in a hurry. In class also, our Madame Himari could not help but continue to think about him, Aoi. Just while she is in her thoughts, a note is passed to her. "Your face is so red, are you thinking about your crush?" Himari refuses to agree with what the note said until the teacher asks for her assignment, which she never brought to school in the first place. So alongside her friends, she was given kind of an after-school detention. It's during this detention that they see the looking mirror, one of the artifacts that were present in the teacher's office for cleaning. It is said that you can see the heart of anyone that you desire. Himari tried, but all she could see was fog. Himari is back home after school. She is welcomed back by her dad and mom. They welcome her calmly and normally. They even prepare her favorite meal of fried tofu for dinner, but something is just not right. As she's still paranoid as to what is happening, she then asks, "You all are dead, right?" At that moment, they became speechless and boom, they become something else, calling her name repeatedly, asking her to be with them forever. Scared, she runs off as fast as her legs could carry her. She ran and ran and ran into an empty room. Lying beside her in the empty room was that same looking mirror. Not long after she picked it up, the door opens and what she was running from caught up with her. She yells and continues to run. Yukari and Issei, the others, clear her from the immediate danger, only for her to find out that they were also part of what she's running away from. Now it seems like she's trapped in a haunted house with no hope of escape, but Aoi, her knight in shining armor, showed up to save the day. But alas, he is not Aoi, because Aoi would never crack a joke about staying in a haunted house forever. Before realizing who Aoi really is, she felt really safe in his arms, all cuddled up in a tight hug. Afterwards, Himari's reflection on the mirror started messing with her head and a little of mine too, could see me starting to freak out. The looking mirror is really not advisable to use wrongly because Himari woke up like she's been in a coma. Fortunately, it has been all a dream from taking a peek at the mirror. But dream or not, here is Himari running off home quickly to confidently tell how deeply in love she is with Aoi. Himari was definitely confident and had every assurance that he loved her too. But what was his response? "I'm sorry, Himari, I do not see you that way." Jesus! Heavenly gracious goodness knows that if I were to be in her shoes, I might not recover from that remark for weeks. But strong Himari could take that one blow for sure. To console her, the team made her a sumptuous meal and wrote her a very annoying song. Alas, nothing was getting better. She felt like she was rejected. Scratch that, Aoi actually rejected her royal flatness. Aoi could not control the seal because the seal broke and he was not able to keep things from the spirit realm away. While trying to keep his cool, Granny the cat came visiting from the spirit realm. She helped him put the intruders away before getting down into business. Marriage! With a lot of books with pretty princesses, it was really not interesting for Himari hearing that her man wanted to find another woman. Granny the cat was so sure that Himari knew little to nothing about Aoi, but wanted to actually test her. Granny gave her a lot of cleaning and also charged her with looking for the ointment of her hair, saying that it was important because it was given to her by her mother. Himari looked in the nooks and crannies of the house to no avail. Even at nightfall, she still went to search the pool where Aoi found her and they searched together. Aoi does not seem to understand how true love feels like. That night, Himari also made an amazingly sumptuous and delicious dinner delicacy. Even Granny licked her beautiful paws. The morning of the morrow, Himari sat on the rooftop soliloquizing. Granny met her there, they talked for a while, and then Granny opens up after Himari reminds her about her misplaced ornament. Granny, being truthful, brought it out from within her fur and gifts the ornament to Himari. Granny explains that this ornament lights up the way of truth only once. Granny goes further to tell Himari that Aoi is a lost child and has been lost ever since he set foot in the Momochi's house. Also, even if he tries to find his way back, it would do him no good. Himari is not sure if she can help him. Aoi still doesn't understand why his powers are acting abnormally. Yukari tells Aoi that it's probably because he feels guilt about hurting Himari's feelings. Meanwhile, Himari and her friends have already arrived at Kagome Park, and although it looks creepy, it doesn't really seem like much out of the ordinary. Not until they all start hearing an ominous voice say Kagome that fear begins to creep in. And that's when the man in black shows up behind Himari, and this girl gives him a very beautiful blow that sends the idiot to sleep. This idiot was none other than Senyu, and now that I look at it, it makes perfect sense that he'll be the idiot to do something as stupid as this. They scold him for playing such an expensive prank on them, and one of the girls mentions that Senyu is actually not the type of person to scare them like that. Sure, he was an occultic freak, but scaring them like that was a bit much. They began to suspect something was fishy when they asked Senyu where he found such a ridiculously old coat, and Senyu tells them he doesn't remember. Himari discusses with Hidaka the weird happenings of the day while they walk home, and it gets to the point where they part ways and Himari continues to the house. She gets into the Momochi compound and suddenly starts hearing the same ominous voice say Kagome. Himari quickly turns around and snaps at Senyu, telling him he won't be able to scare her twice, but there's something fundamentally different about Senyu this time, and Himari notices it. Then suddenly Senyu says that he has been invited into this house and turns into this ugly beast that attacks Himari. Aoi quickly comes out and transforms into Nue and was about to obliterate Senyu if not that Himari pleaded with him not to. So what he did was beat the coat off Senyu, and the coat turned into this monster in blue flames. The monster said it wondered how much Aoi had grown, and after this burst into black feathers that spread around the house. So I know we've already established the fact that this anime is creepy, but what the hell is this? All the Ayakashi in the house were not at peace, and even Yukari said that he felt a very evil intent. Himari asks, and Aoi explains to her that Senyu was possessed by a Tsukumogami, an Ayakashi that possesses non-living things. It possessed the coat, which in turn possessed Senyu, an annoying family tree of possession. In the night, Himari sees Aoi thinking to himself and walks up to him. Aoi tells her that one day he is going to turn into Nu fully and become an Ayakashi, and then he proceeds to hug her. Just then, the feather appears again and a voice asks Aoi, "How long will you keep me waiting?" They all rush outside and they see the feathers joining back together, and suddenly someone emerges from the blue flames. And guess who? It's Nachi sensei, Himari's homeroom teacher. I mean, I always got bad vibes from this guy, but I didn't know he was evil like evil. He's powerful enough that his feathers trap Yukari and Issei, and he walks up to Aoi, who recognizes him and tells Aoi he has come to collect him. He then summons two Ayakashi. Aoi tells Himari to stand back, and he tries to transform into Nue, but his sorry ass cannot, and frankly, Nachi-sensei predicted this. Meanwhile, Yukari and Issei try to escape from the magic Nachi used to hold them down, but the more they struggle, the tighter it gets, and honestly, it looks like it hurts. Himari shouts at Nachi to stop, as if that would work. Aoi asks Nachi why he's doing this, and then they flash back to when Nachi was endlessly searching for the Momochi house but couldn't find it, but ends up finding someone who can little Aoi. In the flashback, little Aoi said he preferred hanging out with Nachi rather than playing with other kids because no one believes he can actually see spirits. Nachi then tells him about Momochi house, saying that if he hides there, his parents would come looking for him, and if they don't, he will. As desperate as Aoi is for attention, he agrees. After the flashback, Nachi explains that for him to have achieved his goal, he gave Himari a fake will, pretending to be written by her parents to trick her to go to Momochi house and distract Aoi so he wouldn't be able to perform his duties properly as the guardian. Nachi then magically transports everyone except Himari to the spiritual realm using his magic staff. So Himari starts searching for them, but to no avail, and all of a sudden Kasha comes and tells her where Nachi took them, a raven's cage in a place where humans can't reach. So in the raven's cage, Nachi tells Aoi that he has Ayakashis that are polluting the human world, and those that have powers like them are supposed to fight against them, but Aoi already bonded with some of the Ayakashi, and doesn't believe they should be eliminated. Nachi plans to be the king of Ayakashi, and tries to convince Aoi to join him. Himari doesn't listen to Kasha and decides to go look for them in the spiritual realm with the help of a winter cherry lantern that shows her the way.
Do you know the way?
So Kasha tells her how to go find them. Then this flat-chested human enters the spirit world hoping to save them, but gets scared by just the gatekeeper that tries to act mysterious and seductive but flips out when he discovers he has no alcohol. The gatekeeper recognizes Himari and tells her that he would let her pass and jokingly demands for her soul in return. Who knows, maybe he would have demanded to touch her melons if she had any. But the winter cherry lantern sacrifices itself in her stead to the gatekeeper, so he lets them through. The gates to the spirit world open and reveal the storeroom of all memories where every aspect of a human's existence is stored. Himari tries to look for the memories of Aoi but gets distracted and sees the drawer of her own memories but can't open it because she doubts if she wants to access her memories and find out if her parents love her or open Aoi's drawer. The gatekeeper tries to convince her to open her drawer instead, but guess what the stupid girl chooses? The drawer of Aoi because she loves him, knowing fully well that she won't get another chance. Typical female. Well, she did that in order to save the man she loves. As Himari opens Aoi's drawer, a version of little Aoi appears and starts telling her about his past. Aoi takes her to his home when he was a child and shows her his parents. He showed her memories of his childhood when he used to play with his siblings. When his mother died and his siblings fainted, he kept on asking his dad about his siblings, but his dad tells him that he has always been playing alone, meaning his dad never saw them. A year after Aoi's mom death, his dad remarries. Aoi was reading a book when his stepmom came to check on him, but as he turns, he sees a dark figure, an Ayakashi, on her shoulder, which scared him and made him hit her hand away, but then apologizes and tells his stepmom what he saw, but she did not believe and started thinking that Aoi makes up the stories because he doesn't like her. Ayakashis were always after him, so he had to isolate himself from his friends and family. He went home late one night, and while his stepmom, who was pregnant, was scolding him and told him to look up, he did and saw tons of Ayakashi around his stepmom, which made him very scared. Around that period in time, he met Nachi, who convinced him to run away to the Momochi house. Aoi didn't want to because he wanted to bond with his stepmom, but when he got home, he saw his stepmom sleeping and the baby in her stomach became an Ayakashi, and it said it'd be better if Aoi didn't exist and told him to leave. Poor Aoi thought he was the reason the baby turned to an Ayakashi. They appeared back in the storeroom of memories, and Aoi tries to trap her there forever, but she escaped through a portal that led her to where Aoi and the rest were. They were all surprised to see her. Then Nachi attacked Himari, but Aoi broke through the magic used to tie him down and blocked the attack. Aoi then transforms into Nue, the king of Ayakashi, and tells Nachi that he could have used his magic to enchant him when he was a child, and that his true desire is not to be the king of Ayakashi, but to find a family because he was a sad, lonely person. Nachi then attacks Nue, but was knocked down. He got up and summoned a lot of demon birds, and Nue gave Yukari and Ise back their powers. Then a fight breaks out. Nachi enters super mode but loses control and starts to turn into an Oni, planning to blow up everywhere, and if he should blow up, the barrier between spirit and human world will break. Himari then kicks the Oni out of Nachi with the power of her words, and Nachi then gets knocked out. Nue then transforms back to Aoi and catches Himari, who was weak from the curse, and he gives her mouth to mouth like that would wake her up. Wait, holy flip, it actually did. In the midst of the happiness, Nachi slips away with an injured eye. He starts talking crazy and all. Kasha starts giving an outro, describing how Nachi would probably end up with another Oni. Aoi, Himari, and the rest are smiling and all from happiness. Himari was definitely not ready for the bomb that Aoi was about to drop on her. Earlier that day, while Himari was coming back from school, her new friends invited her over for a festival, but Himari politely declined, saying she had other things to do, and she promised to go with them next year. Himari makes it into the compound and she hears someone watering the flowers, but when she gets to the garden, she sees no one. She decided to make her way to the house, and that's when Aoi captures her from behind. Sincerely, these guys were just too cute. Himari tells Aoi not to scare her like that again and asks for the others. Aoi tells her they're all preparing for the party, and then we see Issa hanging the party banner and all the Ayakashi assisting in one way or the other. Yukari mentions that they could use some more decorations, and Himari suggests getting more flowers. The fox Ayakashi then tells them he knows where to get flowers and opens a door that leads to a field of very beautiful sunflowers. Himari's mind was blown into 47 pieces. Later they were picking more stuff for decorations in the storeroom. Yukari then leaves Himari and Aoi for the kitchen to continue cooking for the party. And it's here and now that Aoi drops the bomb we've been waiting for. He first of all thanks Himari for saving him and all the Ayakashi, and then tells Himari that a few years after he first came to the house, he found her parents' diary, and it was that diary that saved him. He told her that back then, evil spirits ran rampant around the house as the house had no master at that point. So he toiled day and night exterminating Ayakashi, and being honest, it was very painful for him. Yukari would try to encourage him sometimes, but it didn't really do much help. It was around that time that he found Himari's mother's diary and he started reading it. It told of how Himari's mom was born without powers, so she couldn't be the master of the house. The Momochi name was too heavy for her to carry. Aoi found himself interested in this story and was going to the storeroom every day to read the diary more and more. The diary talked about Himari as well, and Aoi smiled a bit when reading that part. He tells Himari that after reading the diary, his once cold heart became warm again, and he revisited the diary several times, but one day, it seemed as though the diary released some powers in it, and it revealed Himari's dad and mom giving a pre-recorded farewell speech to their baby girl, and then the spirit hugged Aoi. It was there, and then Aoi decided that if he ever met this Himari girl, he would do everything in his power to make sure he protects her. Aoi goes further to apologize for taking the last moment her parents wanted to share with her away from her. Himari shrugs it off, although she's already shedding little tears. She thanks Aoi for this, and as you would expect, Aoi draws her in for a very beautiful hug. After this, the whole family proceeds to have their feast, and Yukari truly outdid himself because this food is more than too much. Everyone digs in, they laugh, talk, have fun, and finally the feast was over. They all go outside where Himari shows them the fireworks she found and laid out. She hopes this will be the grand finale, but they're unable to light the fireworks. Then Aoi transforms into Nue and tells them the fireworks are also Ayakashi, and he lights them up. The fireworks turn into dragons, and Himari convinces Aoi to ride it with her. The two of them taking in the beautiful breeze, flying on a beautiful dragon, looking at the beautiful sky. And Aoi finally says 3 beautiful words, "I love you," before he and Himari share the most beautiful kiss I have ever seen in my entire life.